Hello and welcome to another episode of My Opinion Means Nothing. I really do hope you can hear us.
I really hope you can hear us.
This week I am joined by a very new friend of mine by the name of Minnie. Also goes by the name of Split Mind Poet. Hello.
Hello. Just in case you guys didn't hear the last bit, because we have planes flying over us, it's Split Mind Poet. Yeah, now we can start.
Yeah. So how you doing?
I'm good, yeah. Just blessed to be here with you today and do this podcast.
Yeah.
I've not been on a podcast before, so I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So, usually how I start my podcast is I do the first topic, which is what's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I like to talk about what's happening in the world because I find it hella interesting and hella funny. It's more funny the fucking taglines that they put up, which to grab you in, and then you read it and you're just like, well, it's not even that crazy. Like,
yeah, do you know, I honestly these days I don't read the Metro newspaper for that very reason, because I'm just looking at the headline and I'm thinking this story will take 5 days to develop, so I'm just going to pick up the newspaper on a Friday and just go with that instead. That's what I do nowadays. This is a technique I've developed.
Yeah, I don't know. I only read the news a lot when I'm doing a podcast, but a lot of the time I read just on my app, on the Apple News app. I go on the Metro for this podcast because they have the best taglines for podcasts, just for news articles. The funniest one was when the fastest editing I believe I have ever seen for the internet. It was just the first headline that I saw, it said racist YouTuber da 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 da. Then suddenly the page refreshed and the new title read YouTuber who has been accused of being racist, and I was just like, oh,
holy crap,
there's
the difference.
You know,
the difference that makes. That's the difference between losing your job and not losing your job over just the title. You know. Do you know nowadays? I've not seen many subheadings under the main headline. And I think we're missing out on those things, And nowadays, the headlines that do exist, they sort of exist quite large. Yeah. And it's like a quotation by someone, and that's a way of just enticing you into the news. I don't appreciate it. I find it hilarious, like you said in the beginning. News is just the most hilarious thing that you can go on. And it is literally the thing that every comedian picks up on. I just had a thought now
that it's kind of do you know how everyone used to go to the news, actual news publications to get the news, and nowadays people go to social media to get the news. It's to keep up with social media being the main focus of the news, normal news outlets are do you know what, we need to jump in with those we need to jump in with those grabby headlines and then just hook people in to read our shitty articles. And they're not all shitty, they have factual information, but I mean shitty in the sense that it's not always as crazy as they paint it out to be.
It's never as crazy as they paint it out to be. I mean, put it this way, the way Trump, for example, uses headlines, and the way he's used Twitter to even win the election in some sorts of ways, makes you just wonder whether news itself exists. Is there any substance in news these days? Or do we have to genuinely, if we really give a shit about news, we have to literally dig in and do our own research?
Exactly.
The headlines and the stories that we see nowadays, even up in in Metro newspaper, a very conservative sort of right-wing paper like The Guardian, you ask yourself, okay, I've got what you've given me. You've given me a lot of detail about it. But why is it that today news makes you think more than you have to think about it? It's tedious. I don't like the fact that I have to go and look at a title and then look at the quotation underneath, read this story, and I think to myself, what the F is going on? Are you serious? Yesterday, right? This is just near my hometown, right? So this is in Uxbridge. Yesterday, the title of the tab was Uxbridge is on lockdown. Literally, that was the title, and there was just a few more words after that, and they said Uxbridge is on lockdown, and I was like, what the fuck do you mean the whole of Uxbridge is on a lockdown? And then I read the article. obviously it was written by someone who probably did, part of the editing newspaper at their university. And basically all it said was that a bunch of people outside Clark's, a bunch of children started making a racket and no one could stop them, and they weren't listening to their parents, and basically the police was called down, and basically anyone that comes near the area will get arrested. How the hell is that related to the whole of Uxbridge or Uxbridge High Street getting closed down? Like, someone tell me that.
I mean, it made you want to read it. That's all they want. What will make people want to read this? Uxbridge is shut down. What? Click.
My question to you is, then what are we learning from when we get headlines like this? I mean, are we missing out on the real story if we start clicking and accepting that these are the kind of headlines we're going to get? That's what I mean. We always have to end up doing our own research on every story that we see out there.
You have to do that anyway, even when we were getting it from a norm. That's the thing. That's the greatest thing about internet and social media, in a sense, that when we had news, when it was just coming from one source, you just had to kind of just believe that or have your own opinion, but there was no thing for like that outlet for what that other opinion could be. But now with the birth of social media and commenting on everything,
pretty much
people can comment and have an opinion on absolutely everything and anything, and they can have opinion on something that you might have said maybe, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. They want to dig back into your stream, pick that back up again. Do you know what? That's relevant now.
It's relevant today. I completely have to agree with you on that one.
It's crazy. Like, it's like the amount of, I guess, for some of the things that have happened, like, it's good in the sense, like stuff like all the sexual assault cases that have come out of the woodworks, but that's only become a big thing and a big following because of social media, because of the social media being able to push this #MeToo and stuff like that.
Exactly. I mean, there's a power, isn't it? Everything comes with a good and a destructive power. Some people use it for the bad, and that's sort of what we get politicized and sort of comes out on TVs. But the real makes, and like, when you really nitpick social media, now you can understand that these are the strands that we need to start focusing on to address these things that are out there. Like when we see somewhere like on Twitter or when we see it on Instagram, people are using hashtags to like sort of push forward certain things. We should start enforcing the equal number of different types of hashtags that can exist just against that one point. I'll be honest, I predicted in 2007 that we should leave the EU. Okay, I'll be very honest, I was one of those. I'll tell you something. Okay, I didn't vote. Okay. I just said that we should leave. And now the reason why I didn't vote was because I had this discussion with my godmother in 2007 as to why we should leave the EU. It's only because I realized around that time, especially because China's market was going to start growing with us fairly quickly, I said, I think we should leave, because if we don't leave now, we are not going to understand what it feels to start focusing on the domestic side of our economy. We were in Labour Party around the time, and in terms of how diverse UK has become, Labour is the kind of party that we have seen that construct sort of come out from. Conservatives in the past, known as Tories, or the Whigs, they've used it to utilise the workforce that they needed for the kind of jobs that were being created over here, and that goes all the way back to railway times. And you look at it today and you think to yourself, okay, I see that this is the kind of construct that can come with boosting, jobs and immigration and things like that. But I've lost my point. I've lost my point. I was going to say something really valid here. I can't remember it.
It's okay.
It will come back to me.
It will come back to you.
It will come back to me, yeah. I have memory issues. So always that happens to me.
It happens to me too.
Yeah.
It happens to me a lot. Like sometimes you just get so passionate, you're so into it, you're just like, wait, hang on. I
forgot my original point that I was on. Yeah, even though I'm trying to remember it, there's no way it's coming back to me anytime soon. Oh yes, the EU. Yeah. So for example, I said we should leave because I said we need to start focusing on the domestic side, because that's what other countries in the EU are doing. And I said if we don't leave while we're under Labour government, we will never understand what it means to actually leave the EU, because there was no such thing, ever an agenda, ever set or a clause within the Article 51 that this is what happens when you leave the EU, because no one ever imagined it.
Yeah.
But now when we look at it 12 years later, the social media has exacerbated the need for us to understand the domesticity, and understanding your own market has more relevant than other things. And we couldn't do that back then because there wasn't enough information that was going out via social media, because it was still fairly new in many ways in terms of technology coming about.
Yeah.
And now that we have it, we've understood it, we may have taken the decision to leave completely at the wrong time. And that's exactly why I didn't vote. I was for EU, but I wanted to vote Remain, you know, and I'm not lying. The amount of people that would have deleted me on Facebook, if I voted EU and I publicized that on my Facebook, it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work. So this is social media has a really big power today that it did not have before, or we just didn't have the understanding behind it and what it could actually do to us, especially the masses that we're out there. And we're the ones who basically are looking down on our phones all the time, and we're feeding ourselves information of what we're getting out there. And headlines is probably the most enticing way, you know, especially if you wear glasses, you need headlines before anything else to understand a point. So yeah, the power is there, definitely, Corey. The power is there.
Power's in the medium.
Power is lying within the media at the moment, yes.
Well, let's go on to the first news article I had, which was about poor people in rich areas of England have 19 more years of good health than the poorest parts of the country. Some report says in The Independent.
Oh my days. That is a very focused title.
You know,
but it doesn't make me think, wow, for real?
No.
You know, you've sort of divided people apart to show what the living the age is going to be, and it makes sense to say that. You know, we have the facilities to, because of good wealth, and those that don't, they're going to have to sort of strive for it. And the sort of parts that people fall under when they end up not having that sufficient good wealth that they need to sort of continue living their life, these sort of statements and percentages start becoming relevant. But still makes me question it, you know. But it would make me read the article.
Well, it says that obviously, while average life expectancy has reached 83.2 years for women and 79.6 years for men, there are stubborn inequalities between different parts of the country, says Public Health England. So they say that there's those in more deprived areas have a higher rate for heart disease, chronic respiratory disease and cancer, partly as a result of smoking and the obesity problem.
Okay.
Children are twice as likely to be born with low birth weight and more than 3 times as likely to suffer from tooth decay.
Are you serious? Tooth decay, I can relate, but tooth decay is in there? Wow. I mean, does it tell you in the article where their sources are coming from, as in which parts of the country they are? Because they said there's inequality in terms of where those sources will come from. So how did they come up with that statistic?
It doesn't say really. It just says that Public Health England are doing it. They done a profile. Wait, hang on. Also reveals women. Public Health Profile for England, released by Public Health England on Tuesday, also revealed that women are dying earlier in the UK than in most EU countries.
Why do you think that is?
Going off from, I don't know, is there a better, I don't know.
It's an unusual thing to even focus on, isn't it? Why would that be the reason?
Why? Apparently the UK women is ranked 18th out of countries of 28 for life expectancy.
There's something I read.
Well, men
yeah.
are
What does it
10th.
say about men?
10th.